Hello, and welcome to the WWIA Podcast. We're honored to have you join us in our mission to bring honor, connection, and healing to America's combat-wounded Purple Heart heroes. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, we welcome you. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. Please be sure to tell others about our podcast and leave us a review if you're enjoying what you're hearing. We have a special treat for you today as WWIA Founder and CEO John McDaniel welcomes National Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame inductee and legendary angler Joe Bucher to the WWIA Podcast. Joe is one of the most highly regarded multi-species fishing authorities in the outdoor business trade, having been an on-camera talent for 24 years. While his specialty is arguably muskies, Joe is equally adept at catching bass, walleye, and other game fish. Joe's the owner of Joe Bucher Outdoors and host of the popular award-winning TV series Fishing with Joe Bucher. Joe's been a regular contributing writer for many regional and national fishing publications for well over 35 years, with his first article appearing in Fishing Facts magazine when he was just 19 years old. His articles regularly appear in the pages of outdoor news publications, as well as Musky Hunter Magazine, which he founded. Joe has also authored 6 books on various aspects of fishing and pioneered many of the musky fishing concepts that are now considered mainstream techniques. His innovations in big game fish lure design spawned several brand new lure categories, as well as creating an exciting surge in the overall interest in muskies as the featured sport fish of Midwestern anglers. Joe has also graciously participated in the annual WWIA Eagle River Muskie Challenge, which has been honoring and serving heroes for over a decade. Joe spends time on the water with each Purple Heart hero, teaching them the skills and techniques he's mastered over the years as they pursue the elusive muskie. This is a tremendous episode that we're excited to share with you, so let's jump into the conversation with John and Joe now.
Hi, I'm John McDaniel, founder and CEO of the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation, and this is our podcast, Honor, Connect, Heal. You know, I have to say right off the bat that I've been waiting, anticipating this guest, this special guest, for quite some time. I'm a big fan of his. I've admired his work. I've met him a couple of times, and it's an honor to have Joe Bucher on the program. Joe, welcome to the program.
John, the honor's all mine. Trust me. I was looking forward to this very much as well, and it's just I've been so involved with you guys, and I have such a passion for vets in general, and this Wounded Warriors in Action. It's just a wonderful thing that you put together, and I'm honored to be part of it. And I'm particularly honored to be part of this whole muskie event that we do up there in Eagle River. So it's truly a privilege and an honor for me.
Well, thank you. I when I met you, I felt like I was meeting a celebrity because I was.
Yeah,
no, it's true.
It's true. About that. It's really it's God blesses us with different talents, and mine was being an outdoorsman, doing the things that I do in the outdoors, and presenting it in a way that's fun, entertaining, and challenging, and trying to teach somebody some things along the way. And that's kind of what we do when we bring our vets up to Eagle River and some of the other events I've been involved with over the years. It's fun to interact with them and also teach them how to become better anglers and better hunters.
Yeah. Well, that's really the program, it has been from, really the genesis. And that's, this idea of, that's where the title of the, of our program, Honor, Connect, and Heal, honor what these great Americans did for our country while wearing a uniform. They got wounded. They earned the Purple Heart, and the connect piece, connect them with the great outdoors and great people like yourself and the entire community there in Eagle River, which is phenomenal. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the program, and through all of that, there's some healing. And I would imagine, before we get into your dossier, which is like super impressive, I just can't wait to share some of this with the great folks listening out there. But, let me ask you, the outdoors, you obviously, I'm looking at you can't, the folks who are listening can't see it, but you're sitting in, looks like to be a cabin. I can see, we have this like a Zoom call going on that's being recorded, right? But I can see behind you is, I don't know, I wouldn't even count how many trophy bucks, but let's just say it's 20 that I can see, or at least a dozen of phenomenal, probably Northwoods bucks that you personally harvested. Not only are you a Hall of Fame fisher, freshwater angler in the Hall of Fame, but you're also a sportsman. You hunt deer and I'm sure pursue other game. But, is there healing in the outdoors for you? I mean, can you talk a little bit about you personally and your connection to the outdoors and what hunting and fishing does? I'm just interested in what it does for you personally, outside of the teaching and sharing and, coaching, teaching, mentoring. But what does it do for you personally?
I think at my age, I'm just about to crack 70, John.
Okay.
So you look back on, you think about this, you're looking at some of my trophy bucks, right? And you think about all the fish I've caught. And yet at 70, you look back on these moments and you just go, what is this really all about? It's really not about, it's, those are, when you shoot a big buck, you catch a big fish, those are these ultimate moments in the outdoors. But let's face it, they're short. They're short-lived, and there's a lot of preparation before and after that. But there's beyond that, there's just this this serenity, this peace, this it's not only physical, it's also mental, it's also spiritual, where the sound of water, the sound of birds. You know where I'm going with that? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I don't need any music here. You talk about my musician career and stuff, but it's like, I don't need, this is the ultimate music, right? I mean, I just was turkey hunting a couple of days ago, and
I saw that on Facebook. That you knocked down a big one. A nice time, didn't you?
Yeah.
And piece it together. So you recently went turkey hunting and harvested a nice bird. I saw that on Facebook. Tell us about that.
Well, what's so neat about turkey hunting, it's one of the ultimate experiences in the outdoors. It really is, because, you go out there in complete darkness. You can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And then you can hear your footsteps. And then as you're walking towards the place you're going to hunt, the wood starts to wake up. Nature starts to wake up. You hear birds chirping. You hear all of this, all this nature noise around you. And all of a sudden you hear the first yelps. You hear the first gobbles of turkeys on the roost, and you're setting your decoy up, and you're gonna tuck up against a tree, or you're getting inside of a ground blind, and all of a sudden you pick out your calls, and then you start talking, and you become part of it. And that's one of the beauties of turkey hunting. Whether when you get one or not, and even when you talk to them and you don't actually score on a bird, it's just like the fishing thing, like we talk about. It's not all about the harvest. It's not all about shooting a big buck or getting a turkey, but it's about being there. It's about being part of it. And like I said, it's like I get into my 70s here. You look back on those moments and you go, what do you really enjoy about the outdoors? Just being there, just being there, right? And in this situation, I have to back it up, because one of the cool things about turkey and what I like to do is to scout. So the night before I saw these birds, I've been watching these birds for a number of days, but the night before I saw them roost in a certain spot, and that's one of the strategies of turkey hunting, is to see these gobblers doing what they're doing late in the day. And then I did a little owl hoot, and I get a little gobble back. So I'm like, okay, I know where these birds are at. And so then you go set up on them next morning. And then, it kind of all came together. But it's so funny, before it came together, just like we've experienced it, how many times in the outdoors where you go from zero to hero? Right. I mean, you're not catching fish, and then, well, you've been up musky fish. You're not catching. Boom, you got one, and then you go back to not catching. Right. And in the world of turkey hunting, you may hear these birds, you may not. But I was hearing these gobbles, but they weren't close. And I'm like, that's a dead giveaway, by the way, that they're usually hung up with girls. They're hung up with hens. But when you get a nice warm morning like I had there, usually when the sun comes up, it pushes those hens off the fields and they get on nest, and then those gobblers become lonely and lusty, and that's what happened. Right about the time I was thinking about a cup of coffee and some eggs and some bacon, I hear that gobble closer. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I give them a little, they're starting to come towards me. I'm like, whoa. And before you know it, I spot two gobblers pop into my, the field where I'm at. And the long story, wrapping it up, and it's just, here they come. And as soon as that gobbler saw my decoys, like, there were two gobblers, but as soon as they saw the decoys, the lead gobbler, the dominant one, started moving fast and actually doing like a moonwalk in. And before you know it, I've got the shotgun up and made a successful shot. And that hunt, culminated in harvesting a bird, and it was awesome. But they don't always work out that way. And but it's still a great experience in the outdoors, right, John?
Yeah. Well, I'm taking notes here because, some of the things you say really resonate with me. And, one of the things that I thought of immediately when you were talking about, you're not seeing anything, you're not catching anything, and all of a sudden, boom, and in combat, we talk about, it as being 99 minutes of sheer boredom interrupted by like 1 minute of sheer panic. Wow. And it's very similar to like what the experience that you just described in turkey hunting or musky fishing. Musky fishing, as you know, I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin, so I grew up on a little lake called Butamore, right off of Winnebago, connected through the Fox River. Okay, and then I fished and hunted in the North Woods of Wisconsin my whole life. So from about 1970, you got me by 10 years, buddy. Not that much, okay? But so I grew up hunting and fishing in Vilas County with my dad, and some my buddies would go up there as well. So I don't have the experience that you do on the water up there, but I have a lot of it, and so I was always been enamored by the muskie. I was big pike fishing. I love pike fishing, and they were prolific in Butamore and in Winnebago, and then as were walleye. But the muskie fishing in the 1970s was always referred to as the fish of, I think, 10,000 casts or something like that, right?
Right.
And then so I'm just going to fast forward and set the stage, and I'm going to lateral over to you because I'm just dying to hear one of your titles, or what you're affectionately referred to as a musky guru. And I love that title. I think it's just so cool. So I know you have a wealth of knowledge, but I want to just set the stage here because it used to be back in the 70s, to my knowledge, okay, we were not fishing with live bait. Now, I know they're doing that in the fall a lot, and the success ratio up there, and guys used to eat them too. So now a lot of guys are returning them to the water. And it would almost be sacrilege to kill one of these things and eat it, right? So they're returning them, and these guides make their living off it, and yada, yada, yada. And so it's a great story in conservation for sure, among other things. But, we would taking these big MEP spinners and try to, and guys are still top water fishing for them, as throwing your arm off all day long to get one of these things in the boat. But when that thing comes up out of nowhere, and I've caught them on fly too, I'm a fly fisherman. But when that thing comes up and grabs this lure, whatever it is, I mean, that brings me back to the 1 minute of sheer panic. Tell us about your experience as a muskie guru and a lifetime pursuer of this monster fish. And for those that don't know it, the muskie has eyes set forward in his head because he's a predator, like we are, right? And he's got a mouthful of teeth, and they're all kind of canted backwards like fangs. If that dude grabs you, they eat ducks and stuff. These monster fish, they get to be 50 inches and plus in some cases. But I just get excited thinking about it. But you're a muskie guru. Tell us, Joe, about muskie fishing, man, and your experience.
You know what? I can tell by the conversation we just had, and what I can tell you're passionate about it. I can tell you think muskies are special. And the thing is, for all our listeners out there, they are the apex freshwater predator, unquestionably.
Yeah,
they are the most difficult fish to catch in freshwater.
Yeah,
that's why so often that's what makes the Wounded Warriors in Action event in Eagle River so special, is because you guys aren't just going fishing; you're going musky hunting.
Yes,
and musky hunting is different than musky catching, musky fishing, right? I mean, you can take all the other kinds of fishing that John, that you and I, and anybody who's listening here today, all that have done, and you kind of put them in a different category, because when you go musky fishing, you go musky hunting, and you're hoping for a chance at one. Now, with that in mind, that's what makes it challenging for our heroes when they come up to our event in Eagle River, because you're not, it'd be a lot easier to pull off just a fishing event up there, but we try to take these guys musky hunting.
Yes,
and it requires a high degree of skill. And that's one of the things we try to. I'll tell you what's so unique about our heroes is when they come to Eagle River, because they're military trained, they're easy to train, they're easy to teach, and that is required for you to be successful. And as you were talking just before, just before we really got into this muskie thing, you're talking about how they actually come to the boat and they almost like challenge you. You can take advantage of that. And this is one of the things I worked on early in my career, wrote books on it, videos on it. In fact, I would encourage any of your listeners to visit my YouTube channel, Fishing with Joe Bucher, and you'll see me in action catching these fish, but you'll see a high degree of success at boat side doing a maneuver we call the figure eight. And once any of our heroes that show up at our event there, we teach them to be just so religious on this figure eight, because, if you get good at it, you'll literally double your catches, and you may even triple your catches.
When I was growing up fishing, in the 70s and 80s, there was no, at least I wasn't aware of the figure eight method. And so, when I began fly fishing for these toothy critters, that was the first time that I learned of the figure eight. For those that don't know about the figure eight, what Joe's talking about is taking your fishing rod, bringing, let's just say it's a retrieve, you're throwing an artificial, right? And you get this thing close to the boat with, 12, 18 inches of the leader still, hanging off the rod, and you take your fishing rod, which is more like a pool cue, for these muskies. It's very stiff spined rod, and you shove it down in the water, and you're in a boat now, and then you're doing a figure eight, in the water. Now your rod is probably half or 3/4 submerged, maybe not that far, but somewhere where you're getting some flex in this rod, and you're doing this figure eight at the boat, and you're doing it because these are aggressive fish and they're territorial, and he may have come up and followed that lure all the way to the boat, and by if you pull it out of the water and make another cast, you lost a fish. But Joe, you said 50% of the muskie you've caught approximately are done or caught by using the figure eight method, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, John. I early in my career, I decided to take advantage of every possible situation on figure eights. And I quickly realized that you can be a lot more effective. You can catch a lot more fish on these figure eights if you do a couple things, and so these are the things we actually try to teach our heroes. We teach everybody that we've done this on videos and books and everything else is, long rods with a little more flex in them. By the way, you're talking about stiff rods. Longer rod, a little more flex helps you once you hook these fish on figure eights. The long rods helps you make larger figure eights. I have a great story about one of our events a few years back that I would love to share with you about success on a figure eight. We had it's about 4 years ago, we had one of our heroes at the Musky Challenge in Eagle River that really was struggling with, even the fundamentals of casting. Because of some physical ailments he had from injuries. So you'll love this story, John, because I got in the boat. I jump in the boat with every single, as you know, every single group.
Yeah.
So I can spend time with every single hero on these trips, and just to spend time with them is a pleasure. But then to actually show them some things and give them some tackle to take home and all. It's just a great thing. But anyways, this fellow's name was Tom, and Tom was struggling so much to catch to just cast and retrieve and work the lure. I told him I got in his boat like almost at the end of the event. You're gonna love this story, John. I said, you know what, Tom? I said, why don't you just stick your rod in the water and just figure it? Because you do that part really good.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happened? No cast.
Oh, wow. Not even
no retrieve. No retrieve, John. He just put his lure in the water. And he was just figure eighting. No cast, no retrieve. He catches the biggest muskie of the weekend.
That's awesome.
So there's no follow. There's no visual follow. There's no cast to bring the fish to the boat. He was just putting his lure in the water and figure eighting. I says, I've caught him doing this, so you should try it when you're tired and when you're frustrated and struggling. He caught the biggest muskie on that particular weekend at our Wounded Warriors in Action event.
What a great! That's a great story. I've seen you out there, and I've watched you quietly. I just like to give people, especially people like you that have a very developed skill set and are superb, trainers and instructors. I've watched you, and it must feel really good. Trying to put my shoes in some of these, combat wounded veterans whose lives, that you've touched and spent time with. I know what it feels like to be around somebody who's an expert. Okay. And in whatever discipline it is, everything from the chessboard to to fishing, for muskie in the North Woods of Wisconsin. I just really love to be around people who are experts. And you combine that expertise with a great ability to instruct or teach, as a mentor or as a coach. That's a rare combination. And I've watched you in action, and I wanted to personally thank you for taking that time and spending the time with these heroes. And what that must feel like. This is just what I want to kind of share with the audience for a second is, what do you think it feels like to just imagine for a second being a combat wounded veteran who went off to a foreign country someplace, got wounded, had to leave the service based on their wounds and injuries and the disabilities that it created. And then to go to someplace, have the opportunity to go someplace like Eagle River, in this magical place in the North Woods of Wisconsin, with this amazing resource, with these amazing people and a great community that's supporting this event, get on a boat with Joe Bucher and catch a muskie, and then go home. Okay. Now fast forward the tape. You're sitting back. You're back in your home, wherever that is, because we don't just take guys from the local area. We bring guys from all over the country to have this type of an experience. But that right there, in my mind, okay, is validation that says, hey, listen, what I did for this country was valued, right?
Amen.
How good, what is that going to feel like, right?
Right.
Especially when, and you're of the age as I am. I mean, Vietnam was on the TV when I was a child, and Saigon falls in 1975. I'm 11. Okay, and so to see what happened to these great Americans when they came home, wounded or not, it doesn't matter. They weren't accepted in many parts of our country, sadly. But we've changed a lot. The country's learned, and to be able to do this kind of thing for these great veterans who bled in our country's uniform. That to me, it just doesn't get any better than that. To be able to surround them with high quality people, to give them these memories that replace some of the bad memories that they have, and show them that what you did was valued, And I got to thank you personally. We're not done. We're just I feel like we're just getting warmed up here, but I just have to say that out loud and acknowledge what you've done and what, the great Americans like, Scott Samuels and that entire coalition of American greatness in one of my favorite places on the planet, the northern woods of Wisconsin. It's just great, Joe. And thanks for, sharing and you worked a whole lifetime to be at this point, to be able to give some of that back.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
That's just awesome.
The pleasure's all mine. It's an honor and a privilege to be there working with these heroes. I just absolutely love it. I'm already looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's and the friendships.
Yeah.
You arrive at this place, nobody knows each other, right? And the fact that I get to spend time with every single one of them, and then be like the head instructor, so to speak, and then see victories, encourage them that it's not hard to encourage them. These folks are awesome.
Yeah.
They really are. They're the finest Americans we have, but it's one of those things that, with muskie hunting, again, we're talking about muskies in particular, it's that you're going to go from zero to hero in one cast. And so you just got to hang in there and just keep doing everything right and go through the disciplines. And, it's easy to tell them that the first hour. It's after they've been doing it for 2 days, and they're late into the second day, and their arms are sore and they haven't had any luck. But then all of a sudden, like this story I just told you, where the guy just stuck his rod in the water and did a figure eight at the very end of the trip. And I've had this happen. This has happened multiple times. But even the greatest part of that event is the friendships. I get emails, comments on my Facebook and Instagram pages, and from warriors from past trips. They're friends, and I consider them friends. And we when I arrive there, I look forward to meeting them. And when I leave, I'm enjoying putting those friendships in my pocket, because those are special people. And believe me, I do not for a second take that for granted. I am so appreciative to be part of this. I'm glad that you guys still consider this old timer, worthy of being up there and being part of this, John. I just absolutely love it.
Well, you're an icon, buddy. We're honored. We're honored to have you on the team, and I mean that. Really, it's just great.
It goes beyond that. It's our company. I obviously I'm in the fishing lure manufacturing business and have been for decades. But we look forward to.
What's the name of it, Joe?
Joe Bucher Outdoors.
I was going to say, let's plug that sucker.
Well, it's not necessary to do that, but as you know, we provide. One of the first things I did when I got involved with this organization is told Scott, I says, we gotta leave every one of these vets, when they leave, whether they caught a muskie or not, they gotta leave with a tackle box full of muskie gear, a rod and a reel, line leaders, and the knowledge of how to use the stuff. So that was one of my big things for getting started was, and Scott will tell you, is that, I put together a lot of these sponsorships in the beginning with tackle manufacturers to make sure they had reel, rod, line, leader, tackle box full of products. And we're part of that. I want to make sure that every one of those heroes that comes to that event gets outfitted with the lures that I would suggest they fish with. Mm-hmm. And if they do, they'll be successful. And then, of course, they're fishing with, outstanding guides that love being part of this event. We actually have a waiting list of guides that want to be part of this. Did you know that? I'm sure you know that, but
Well, I got to tell you, whenever it's, you're doing a good thing when there's barriers to entry. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And right.
Yes.
And then people are trying to get on your team. You go, well, you know what? We got a roster with 22 on it, and that's all we can really handle right now. But, that's you know that you're doing it right at that stage when you're trying to figure out how you can, employ the help, right?
Yep. And we love it. We love it that's the way it is. And, Scott's done a phenomenal job.
It's amazing.
Like you say, this event, the community's behind it. I was just checking a Facebook post just before I went on the air with you, and we picked up a new sponsor again. It's almost like, again, this is the same thing as like, as soon as sponsors are aware, and the sponsors, I've gotten some of the fishing tackle manufacturers, like our own company, to, and by the way, everybody involved, including the people that make the lures, are proud of being involved with this event. It's just a total pride thing, and a love for our heroes. But what is a business? Most of these sponsors are local businesses.
St. Croix rods is an example. I think every guy is walking away with a St. Croix rod. Thank you very much. Right? Yeah. I think where you got. I had a one of our board members. Won't mention his name, but he's. A highly decorated veteran. And he said to me about a year ago regarding the foundation and then at certain aspects of it operationally, he said, you're at a point where I think you've reached irreversible momentum. And I think the only reason that's true is because of great opportunities like the one you guys have created in Eagle River. That thing, like you say, it's got irreversible momentum, and it does so because, the proof's in the pudding, right? I mean, people get to see, touch, and feel, and they see the goodness. And thank God, obviously the social media platforms help, but delivering these heroes, it's a monster effort. If you think about taking 10 people, 10 combat wounded veterans, and sometimes I think we've even swelled to 12, right? But we have to say 10, right, for argument's sake. But bringing 10 into plus the guides, we throw two combat wounded guides on top of this to shepherd the process. But delivering 10 combat wounded veterans from across 10 different locations across the country to come together. And Eagle River is not an easy place to get to. Newsflash. I have property in Phillips, Wisconsin, which is about an hour and a half south of you. And I thought I was in the North Woods. We got to fly these guys into Wausau. What is it? 3 hours from Wausau to get up there?
It's an hour and a half driving. But you're right. I mean, there's no direct flight to. You aren't just getting off an airplane and you're there. Once you get off the plane, you got to drive. And here's the other thing. That's all sponsored. There's people just they can't wait to get there and pick the guys up.
I know, and that's right. It's like welcome home, buddy. Like that. What a great feeling that is. Again, you guys are just knocking this out of the park. It's an amazing formula for success, and it fits right into the Honor Connect Heal. And that connection piece, you mentioned it. You got guys that you maybe fished with 10 years ago, combat wounded vets that you fished with 10 years ago that are, that you're still in contact with. Right, that's the good stuff.
Mike Engel. He's one of our combat vets that has attended several of the events. Mm-hmm. He shot a turkey the other day, and he's the first one sending me a picture, send me a photo.
There you go.
His first gobbler. So it's,
how cool is that?
It's just awesome. And my wife Beth and I, we half the time we like the dinners, the breakfast and dinners and stuff. We end up hanging out with these guys, especially if they've been there several times. Right. They're looking us up. So it's one of those. It truly is one of those blessings. It's one God's best blessings is the fact that I was contacted to be part of this, and then so I'm not only part of it corporately with our business, I'm part of it personally with my time and expertise, and the pleasure's all mine. And, and again, the thing is there's no guarantee for success. There's none. And that's my first speech when I get to meet, our new vets when they arrive. It's like, just remember, you signed up for this, but I don't think you really understand what you're up against here. You're going hunting. Mm-hmm. You may have hunted, but now you're going hunting for a fish. But I cannot guarantee you're going to have success at catching one of these things.
Yeah. Well, it's great. So I got to tell you, I want to switch gears here before we get too long in the tooth here. We've just had a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences with us, Joe. But I saw you I think I first saw you on Facebook, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I started following you and checking you out and getting to know you a little bit better from afar. But I saw a post where you were playing guitar, and I was like, well, I'm a guitar player. Okay. I mean, I'm a lifetime cool student. Okay. And I don't perform on a stage like you do, but I saw a picture of you on stage. Okay. And like I say, you're surrounded by guitars. It looks like you got a Fender Strat in your hands. I've listened to you play. You got a whammy bar working there. You focus on the blues, but you're a guitar player. You're an artist. You're a performer. Tell us about that, man. I mean, it's like to combine that with fishing. And again, like I say, I play guitar. I don't play it like you do, but I've been a student of music and guitar, in particular, my whole life pretty much. But tell us about that, man. That's so cool.
Well, being a student of the instrument, you're exactly right. We all are. And it's a never ending learning process, and it's enjoyable. I've been playing most of my life, all the way back to my early teenage days, and I played professionally for a while. But what's really interesting about decades later, I've been playing guitar for over 50 years, is when I was guiding full time, I actually got out of playing. And just to kind of give you kind of a real quick history, I got out of playing, and I was guiding a couple of rock stars, and they were arguing and discussing guitar rigging techniques, and anyways, you're talking about strats and floating tremolos and stuff like that in front of the boat. Uh-huh. And these are the guys that wrote "Eye of the Tiger," the Survivor.
Well, I was going to say Survivor, right?
Yeah, the Survivor. So Frankie Sullivan's up there, Jim Peterickner, but anyways, they were talking about guitar. Yeah. So I chimed in.
Yeah.
And they both stopped.
They didn't know you were a guitar player at the time?
No.
Okay, cool.
So it wasn't part of my deal, for years in the guiding business. I actually had sold all my equipment, and I was really out of it. And they both turned around and looked at me like, what do you know about guitars? Uh-huh. And anyways, so I used to play. I used to play. Oh yeah, right. I want to see you play. I said, I haven't played in years. Yeah. So after we were done filming our TV show, and I was guiding them, and we were filming, went down in there. They had a place up there in Eagle River, and my cameraman follows us in. They got it all set up, to embarrass me very well. And so again, I
love this story.
Yeah, so I haven't played in like 10 years. And Frankie Sullivan, he's got a guitar in the basement. He's wailing on some licks. He goes, "Okay, Joe." He says, "Now I want you to play." And he hands me the guitar, and I'm like, and I don't know where it came from, but John, I rise to the occasion. I grabbed hold of the guitar, and I just started wailing. And the guy looked at me like, "Holy moly, this guy can really play!" And fast forward about 4 months later, I'm speaking at a sports show in Chicago, and one of my slides is how I finished this musky hunting program that I was talking about. Is you must have Eye of the Tiger, and you know that, right? You got to have Eye of the Tiger to pursue these fish, with with a passion. And he's in the audience. So he comes up to me afterwards. He goes, "Hey, Joe, I was back there, and all this stuff." He has that Chicago accent with a few F-bombs thrown in. And anyways, he says, "I love it." He says, we got to get you back into playing. So I says, "I got to catch a flight, to another town to do another seminar." So I leave the program. I'm in the airport the next morning, and I hear, this is before 9/11, so you could run through airports and meet people at at the gate. And anyways, this guy's running through the airport with an oblong shaped case in his hand, and he's yelling, "Hey, go!" And so, I turn around, look, and I said, "How can somebody know me down here in Chicago? When I'm trying to get on an airplane." Anyways, Frankie's brother Tom hands me a guitar case. He says, "This is from my brother Frank." He says, it's a gift from him. He says, he's told me to tell you, you're good. Never stop playing. And that was, I know, it was an unbelievable inspiration. And so Frankie and I started doing music together for my TV show. It became a signature of my show. So I stopped paying music fees anymore for all the broadcasting that I was doing, but you have to pay a fee to use that music. And I started producing my own, and voila, that's what you see all the time now. So I started performing live, and all the events, by the way, I do live are all charity events.
Really?
Yes, including a Blues Fest in Eagle River, and all the money from the Blues music event, by the way, in northern Wisconsin. We hold it every July. It's done at the end of July. All that money is.
Okay.
You still there?
Well, yeah, you were saying about the proceeds, and then you cut out the proceeds.
All the proceeds are for youth sports and scholarships. And so I recruit the parents, the teachers, the coaches, and alumni, and they all get together and run this festival for me every night. Every year. And then at the end of the night, they get a check for anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000.
Oh my gosh!
It funds their events, and it funds their scholarships, and it's become. Oh, by the way, and you know what else? The business. It's just like Eagle River with everything else. That entire area. All of these businesses sponsor the event. So the entire event is underwritten, John, before we even open the door. It's already making money because we're trying to help our youth. And by the way, it's we have a lot of vets, a lot. It's funny because security wise, we never have any security issues because the place is loaded with law enforcement and people are there just having a great time. But it's a barbecue festival, a music festival. And a silent auction, and all the money goes to raising, goes to kids.
And that's in July.
That's in July.
Okay, I'm scratching a note here to figure out a way to be part of that, just to show up and support it. What a wonderful thing. I got to ask you, Joe. So Frankie's brother, did you say his name was Tom?
Tom. Yep.
So Tom's running through the airport. He hands you a guitar in a case. Yep. I assume. What was it? What was in the? It was a
62 Strat.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's a 62 Strat, and it's become one of my signature guitars that I play all the time.
Oh, Daddy!
Yeah, and it's so cool because Frankie Sullivan is instrumental in inspiring me to get back into playing, and I thank him every time that I that this subject comes up because he's been inspirational in getting me back into playing. And he really discovered where my real talents in guitar playing are. So I've taken
in the blues arena. I mean, is that he helped you discover that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, I grew up playing all these different styles of music from growing up in the Beatles era to all of the all of the 60s and 70s stuff, and playing everything from heavy metal to blues, Clapton, Hendrix, you name it. And all the country guys in between. But, Frankie went, "Joe, you're a blues player."
Why? Now let's talk about that. Why? He just heard something in your play?
Yep.
And when he said that resonated with you?
Yes. And at that point, prior to that, I had never realized that, he said, all of your stuff is, all your licks are all based in these, in the pentonic blues thing. And I said, really? So I went, yeah, he says, you should really discover, really go into the blues side. He says, when you're playing Clapton, all you're doing is playing blues. When you're playing Hendrix, all you're doing is playing blues.
That's right. It's R&B base, it's just, it's all R&B. That's where it started. Yeah.
Well, so I just went down that route and realized that's who I am. And now when I go back to playing all this other stuff that I play, whether it's jazz and rock and all this progressive stuff and all the country too, I understand that, as long as I stay in my pocket of the blues that my playing. And, that's what, by the way, before we end this, one of these days we got to do a music thing at one of the Eagle River events. I've been talking to Scott about this. Scott's a huge Sanders.
I know. He's a rock and roller, man.
He's a huge blues.
Yeah.
Huge blues fan. And he's at, by the way, he's at our Blues Fest every year. So are most of the guides that are at the event. Mm-hmm. So it's well attended by the same people that are at the Wounded Warriors in Action, Musky Challenge every year.
Well, I'll have to figure out a way to do that. I'd love to see you on stage and rub elbows with those great folks in that amazing community. Joe, I just gotta thank you again, man. I mean, for all you've done and for your energy, your time, your talents, and for carrying the banner. I mean, that's it means the world to me personally, and most importantly, I know it means the world to our combat wounded who are being provided opportunities they would otherwise never have. To get right with the world. And it's people like you and all that amazing community that, that open your arms and your of your time, talent and resources and say, I'm not asking for anything here, man. I'm not asking for anything. I want to teach you something. I want to show you something. I want you to be part of something here. And that's really the good stuff. And that's what really makes it work. And I just want to publicly thank you again and your amazing community up there. And I'll give you the last word, buddy. Thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Well, you kind of said it all right there. To me, it's a blessing to be part of this thing. I thank God every day that, he's blessed me with the talents I have and the great family I have and the options I've had in life to do things like this. But it's the pleasure is all mine to be part of this thing. I can't wait every year to share this share what I know with our heroes. And at the same time, like you said, I'm not asking for anything, just an opportunity to be there and be with these guys. I even enjoy, to just kind of close this thing off. I enjoy the simple things with having a breakfast with these guys, having a breakfast with our heroes, having lunch with them, being the host, being able to, I usually say breakfast prayer or sometimes the dinner prayer. And that's a privilege and an honor for me.
Yeah. It gets you right in the ticker, man.
Absolutely. And to anytime I can make a difference with our America's best.
Yeah.
Guys and gals who've given so much. And by the way, gals, we got quite a few gals that are out there having these monkeys, John, and they're doing a great job.
They sure are.
Yeah. So I love it. I'm looking forward to it. I hope to see you there again. And by the way, those of you listening, this guy can catch muskies. Last time you were up by us, I think you caught 4.
I'll tell you one quick story before we go, because I didn't tell the guide I was with, one of the trips. I didn't say, well, I've been fishing for muskie, and I didn't say anything. I just pleasure to be here, and so he's talking me through, he says, we were, as they were in the fall time frame, they'll run these suckers down, live bait on these harnesses, and that they kind of sit down there and wait for a muskie to nail them, but at the same time, to double your chances, you're slinging some plastics and chicken feathers or whatever you got, at these guys, and then doing the figure 8 technique and procedure that you so eloquently described earlier. So you got kind of these full things happening. And so he says to me, now listen, if this rod right here goes off, right? He's talking about the rod with the sucker down near the bottom, because if this rod goes off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it to you. Okay. And then he says, I want you to set the hook like you're trying to break the rod. And I go, check this out, man. I go, okay, I got that. And so we're fishing about halfway through the day. Click, click, click. And he's like, oh, it's like, here, grabs the rod real carefully. And he kind of hands it over to me. And I reel up a little bit of the slack, and I can just start to feel that, yeah, okay, there's some pressure on there. And then I look at him, he like nods, like, go ahead and give her hell. And I reef on that thing, and it pulls the fish clean out of the water. He comes flying through the air, and he's got the net, right? He's already, and because we were fishing in some shallow water. So he grabs the net, he's got the net in his hand, and he catches the fish in midair.
Oh my gosh.
So we're just looking at each other like, did that just happen? Like, again, 99 minutes of sheer boredom interrupted by, 1 minute of complete panic and exaltation, right? It's that 1 moment of success that you work so hard for and leaves such a monster impression on you. It's pretty cool.
It really is. And, that's what makes musky fishing so unique. And it's at the same time, it's 99% of the time, nothing's happening, but you still keep going through the motions.
That's right. Well, you're a great American, Joe, and thank you for being on the program today, and thank you for all you do. And I feel like you and I could talk for 2 weeks. So
no doubt about it.
We'll have to spend some more time together and get you back on the program and circle back with you, because we could probably do a whole series just on muskies and lures. I would love to talk about that. And I know there's a lot of people that would love to hear about it too. We can get more.
Well, I would love to. You see all the bucks behind me. Those are almost archery bucks. And I would love to talk archery with our heroes, and the value of the crossbow and how we can help. The value of the crossbow with our wounded warriors, and how they can score on a deer. And we need to do a podcast down the road on that.
Let's do that. Because we got a great partnership with Raven Crossbows, and it changed. I've been using crossbow for many years because of some physical challenges I have personally. It's a game changer. And for those that can't see it, which is everybody out there, behind Joe are some monster white-tailed deer. Look at that. It's just, that's like that gets me. You talk about getting motivated and all jammed up. Look at that dude right there. You got some 150, 160 class bucks back there. And in the Northwoods, maybe even higher than that. I can't hardly tell, but for those that don't know, being successful in northern Wisconsin, wherever the heck you hunted these things, I look at that guy right there.
Yep.
Wow. That one
right there that's a booner right there.
Yeah, for sure. It looks to me like you got lots of booners right there.
Well, this cabin right here, John, is on my hunting property in the western side of the state in famous Buffalo County.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains a lot. We could talk Buffalo. We got to do another podcast.
We sure, absolutely. So that's why I wanted to leave you
on
with that.
Whitetails. Yeah,
let's talk
all day. That's what that's the stuff that keeps me awake at night. That's like, I am all about that and always have been.
Let's visit. Let's get together. Just before bowl season, and let's talk.
Yeah. Again. Okay. All right, buddy. Have a great day. God bless you, and thank you for your time and all that you're doing for our heroes. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to the WWIA Podcast. To learn more about the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation and how you can get involved, please visit our website at WWIAF.org. Or follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you'd like to comment or offer feedback about our podcast, or if you have a suggestion for a future episode, please email us at podcast@wwiaf.org. Thank you for your support and for helping us honor, connect, and heal our combat wounded Purple Heart heroes through the power of the great outdoors.